Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Team of Legends, a French LCS-style tournament where teams will be competing against each other every week in these group stages. I am Christopher Disciple Allen. Here casting with me is Reed Rapid Melton, and we are excited.
Dude, I'm so excited after watching a little bit of the first game of the night. They're getting to cast the last one. It's just so awesome to see talent from around the world. I mean, you and I are obviously both Americans, and so I guess we could be from other countries too. But either way, it's nice to get out and have a chance to check out teams from around the world. I was actually doing the ESL Benelux stream for the Go For Benelol monthly finals yesterday, and it was really cool to see Lowland Lions, a team from the Benelux region. They just narrowly missed being in the qualifiers for next season of LCS, and so it's nice to see coming out here for a predominantly French tournament. A lot of teams from France representing themselves very, very well in a lot of.
Absolutely, and we saw last game Mine did such an excellent job on Ezreal. I mean, every Ezreal player should take note about how well he did. We will see him again over here on the purple team, which is Airswell, and he just played that excellently, really carrying his team through in the end. And now getting into our picks and bans, we see instantly a Nocturne locked in there, so they clearly favor that heavily. We didn't see it from Airswell last time, but apparently it's a contestable pick here.
Yeah, I wouldn't necessarily expect to see a whole lot different from the last game, but I don't know what to expect, and that's what makes this so exciting. First pick Nocturne is not something you usually see. Usually it'll be like a support pick first or a very high priority target. And this time around, you'll notice actually a couple of things that were banned last time actually aren't banned this time around. You have Fizz, Ari, Orianna, all the really good AP mid play, all the AP mid champions still available, only Kassadin and being banned out. So there's a lot of flexibility there. Expect to see Chris Meister actually save that AP mid pick for last. But with a Nocturne picked up very, very first, it's kind of interesting to see them already kind of telegraphing, hey, we want to dive in and try to get it onto your carries.
Absolutely, but if you pick a ganking champion, one of the best responses there is to pick a counter ganking champion, which is Nasus. He doesn't have the greatest ganks coming with his Wither, just telling you to slow down as he hopes to catch up to you. But if a Nocturne does jump on you and you Wither him, he's not going to be staying on you very much. The Fear Tether is going to break, and if he throws that as well on the enemy AD carry or the top laner, it could definitely keep them down and just able to help his lanes out as he continues to farm up, get tankier, get those Q stacks, and I think a very solid response coming out here that will be scarcity on the jungle.
And as well, you were talking about counter-engage. Doesn't get a whole lot worse for counter-engage than having a Nami that you're going into, knowing that she can just say, hey, here's where my carry is, here's where you're diving, let me just throw an Aqua Prism right here and just completely lock down the situation. With follow-up CC in the form of her Tidal Wave and her Tsunami, it's going to be really, really good to just see the team's already starting to realize, hey, this is what they're going for, let's try to counter that out. And so it'll be interesting to see what Zubed and Chris decide to go with. And once again, locking in Lissandra is a really good way of saying, hey, you may have counter initiate for us, but it's not really going to be all that effective because we can just press R on you and you're not really going anywhere.
Lissandra is such a safe pick there, and just such a strong and variable pick. It's not something we see over here in NA nearly as much as we see over in EU, but the ability to both be safe in lane, able to escape, able to clear out waves, and then in teamfights contribute so much crowd control as well as damage. I think it's definitely a safe pick, especially since they won't see the enemy team's AP pickup until last. And the Nunu is locked in. That's going to be Feel Hack up in the top lane.
Yeah, if he was being watched the last game, you gotta know that the Jax ban is warranted against him, but Nunu is just a completely dominant, very safe force in that top lane as well. Be nice to see Feel Hot coming out there. You'll notice the Ezreal ban, we're not going to see another 14-0 performance on Ezreal from Mind, but he's going to go on Varus this time, and Varus not the same style of champion at all as Ezreal. I would have expected maybe Jinx is banned, so you can't use that one, but any one of the other very mobile AD carries, like maybe a Tristana or maybe an early pick Caitlyn, but instead choosing to for their first pick, grab away Nasus and Nami. Nami Varus. Usually you see Sona Varus just for a lot of lockdown ultimate ability, but Go to Nami there. So let's see how that works out. Either way, it's going to be Mind once again, somebody to watch, definitely a player to watch from that last series. So interesting to see what Airswell can do against a new opponent.
Absolutely. I think the Varus was so necessary here in this matchup, though, because they didn't get any real crowd control from the Nasus or the Nunu besides some slows, and his ability to initiate with that Chain of Corruption is definitely going to be necessary here to be followed up by a Nami Tidal Wave, and it'll just leave the enemy splashing around inside of the absolute zero, and that could prove very fatal for them. They do have a lot of counter engage, though, from the Kennen and from the Lissandra. They don't have a lot of built-in engage unless they want to go full on deep, but if the enemy team does engage on them, then they have the closer ranged AoEs that could definitely lock it up. So it'll be hard to engage on them with that Sona, the Lissandra, a lot of AoE lockdown here from blue team.
All right, and so those are your final rosters locked in. It's going to be a Sona last picked, so Sona Caitlyn will be the choice. They're going up against a Nami Varus in the bottom lane, and once again, we do have a top lane Nunu. And we saw Shyvana be able to build pretty tanky, did wind up picking up a Tiamat and a Hex Drinker, both of which were very effective. But I don't necessarily think it's going to go quite so well for Kennen. Does start with a Doran's Blade, but you actually have to be auto-attacking consistently to get the heal back from that. Not really going to be happening so much against the Nunu.
Right, he has a couple advantages here. He is a little bit safer having that electrical surge. He does have a ranged advantage in this matchup, so he will be able to play a little bit safer. Earlier, Shyvana would have to run into range of Nunu to get last hits. It might not be the case here. But ultimately, as a Kennen, you want to be able to rush the Zhonya's Hourglass, which might not be possible. He may need health or magic resist early in this matchup, which could definitely hinder their ability to fight at level 6.
It'll be really interesting to check out not only the top lane, we didn't quite highlight it last time, but the bottom lane as well. We got to talk about Mind. That guy is absolutely crazy, a genius, if you will. All the brain puns coming out, but we'll think of some more of those as the game goes on. Either way, I didn't see quite as dominant a performance from Chris Meister in that last game. He was playing Syndra, and so a couple times we saw him do some nice setups, but it wasn't really inspired play. And so going up against Chris, not the NA player, top laner for Velocity Esports, but the French version of Chris, will be playing against him now. And he's also on Diana, or Chris Master, is going to attempt to prove not only which is the better mid player, but whether or not he is actually the master of the Chris's.
What we could see here is Kennen going in the mid lane and Chris actually going up in the top lane. And I feel like Chris would actually have a safer laning phase here against Feelhawk than Cybodome would. It could be either way here. They're pretty variable about who can go mid and who can go top. But I feel like Chris would do a little bit better up there in the top, being able to just clear out the waves faster. And he doesn't really care if his attack speed is slowed.
Also, Lissandra can naturally spec into an Abyssal Scepter, which does give you that extra magic resistance while still allowing her a lot of offensive capabilities too. So could see her go for that early Negatron Cloak just to block out a little bit of the Nunu damage. But the problem about Nunu is that his damage is so persistent. It just never goes away, kind of like Nunu. And so I guess it's appropriate in that respect, but still going to be very rough for somebody without any natural tankiness or sustain to deal with.
Absolutely. I mean, he's just not a fun champion. It's hard to see like a good counter or a good matchup there. I feel like Lissandra would be their best bet, but we'll see what they choose to do as we get in the game. For those of you who aren't sure, we have about 1 minute and 15 seconds left on our spectator delay. This is just to make sure that neither team can watch the stream and get an advantage. But we are so excited to see this. I feel like Nocturne really can't gank early. He just has to stay in the jungle and get up to that level 6 so that he can fly in with that paranoia. Meanwhile, Nasus will most likely be doing the same thing. He'll make sure to poke his head into the lanes, let him know he's there, maybe put some damage on, and maybe stop Nocturne if he tries to go for a pre-6 gank. But ultimately, he just wants to get some Q stacks, get up that Spirit of the Ancient Golem and perhaps a Spirit Visage, and then be able to fight in team fights. Remember that he can get a dragon at level 6 with his ultimate solo if he is able to get a vision ward, or Nami's able to do that for him. So we could be looking there around level 6 if Nocturne decides to turn his attention elsewhere on the map.
Yeah, that's something we haven't actually talked about is the jungle matchup. Nocturne, kind of a carry jungler, but definitely looking to dive in on your AD carry, really make his life a little bit more miserable. For Nasus, like you mentioned, a lot of buff control, just because you can hit level 6, walk up to Dragon. It doesn't matter what items you have, you just hit R and it dies. It's a pretty cool status to have as a jungler. So we'll be highlighting all of the lane matchups, so we go ahead and get into the games. But do want to thank everybody for watching. This is Teams of Legends. Hope you guys are enjoying the English coverage. If you are looking for French coverage, then make sure to go ahead and check out twitch.tv/Teams of Legend to check out French coverage of the event as well.
Absolutely. We are your casters. I am Disciple. You can find me online at Twitter at LOLDisciple, and you can find my co-caster Reed Melton at Rapid Casting. If you want to check out more about this tournament, you can find them online at facebook.com/Teams of Legend, I believe is the URL there. Do I still have Rapid with me?
Yes, you did.
Oh, yes, I do. There we go. Yep, so it's at facebook.com. You can search for Teams of Legend, and you can find more information on this exciting tournament. We are here in our loading screen going to bring you our third round of the day. We have on our blue team, Team Random, and on our purple team, it is going to be who we brought you last time, Airswell. And Airswell, definitely a scary team to go up against. We saw them start to falter a little bit there in the mid-game. Did lose a couple of team fights over to G-Pulse, but ultimately, Mind on that AD carry won't be playing quite the same game like you mentioned that he was last game on the Ezreal, but who knows, if he gets ahead, he could potentially go for that Legolas Varus build with the Bloodthirster and the Last Whisper, and just go for the massive damage on his spells, which could definitely prove fatal over there for Random if they aren't expecting that much damage from him as a caster. Going to rearrange my champions.
You know, casters can deal tons of damage, but we as casters can only deal tons of damage. We'll have to see if we can keep those going as the game progresses. But should be getting into things here in just a second. Hopefully we won't have one of those other slightly uncomfortable pauses to start things out. But hey, it wouldn't be casting on EU West without a pause to start things off. But as is, I'm just going to go ahead and get things started out as both teams kind of grouping up relatively defensively, both kind of feeling each other out.
Absolutely. Neither team, I think, is confident at this point to go in for a full invade. They might be looking for a little bit of a vision advantage there if they go in with the wards. But ultimately, both teams just kind of feeling a little safe. Neither team has a great level 1 here. If there was a level 1 fight, I would honestly not be sure who to give it up to. Caitlyn has a great level 1, but so does Nunu over here if he gets an Ice Blast, as well as Diana, bringing out a lot of damage there with the Crescent Sweep and Crescent Strike. And just such a powerful champion, Diana. That's not something we've talked about. It's not something we've seen recently in the mid lane. I remember Skara being one of the big mid Diana players over on NA, but bringing out a lot of single target assassin potential, as well as tanking a lot of damage up with the shield, can definitely allow Diana to dive in, which is something that this comp was maybe lacking. They do have a bit of initiate from that bottom lane, and potentially Nunu to be able to follow up with the absolute zero. But a Diana jumping in there, making sure everyone comes in with the Moonfall, that could put everyone in a very good position for Nunu to get off an absolute zero.
And so for right now, we do see the same thing we saw in game number 2 as Airswell took on G-Pulse. This time around, both junglers starting at the bottom half of the map, working their way to top lane. We'll see how that works out in that top lane matchup. We talked about how Lissandra would actually be a much better matchup versus Nunu. We do see Kennen in the top lane, so it'll be interesting to see if that is as good a matchup as, or as bad a matchup as we expected it to be. Either way, Nocturne a little bit farther ahead in the jungle than Nasus, and we'll be making, both junglers will be making their way top lane after that. You can see Fieldhawk actually taking a lot more harass than I would have necessarily expected, as Kennen walks in there with a lot more magic resistance than I expected too, up at 37. Fieldhawk actually much higher in both categories at 41 over 50.
Oh, wow. He's not going to be taking a lot of damage, especially now that he is level 2 and he will
but Nocturne coming in from behind, double buff. There's going to be a paranoia, or a fear rather, does land Fearing Fieldhawk right back into the turret. A lot of damage traded back at the same time. Snow 746 We'll just try to get back away. Turns around for a little bit of a Duskbringer, just trying to give Tsai Reborn, or Tsai Bodum. There we go. It's Sal Bodum. I'll try to get the names as good as I can. And if you guys have sexy pronunciation guides, then definitely throw those my way as well.
Oh, absolutely. Feelhawk is now taking his bully position here. Now that he has his Consume and he's able to heal up off these creeps, and he is just going to continue throwing Ice Blast after Ice Blast. We saw Scarcity coming up there to ward off the gank. Now he's just going to go right back to farming his jungle. He's about even with Nocturne at this point, but Nocturne really has to get that level 6 as soon as he can if he wants to make much of a presence in these lanes at all. I feel like mid lane would be a pretty good ganking opportunity because of Lissandra's natural lockdown. He can contribute the damage to really turn that into a kill once he gets that paranoia.
So we're going to look at that nice Aqua Prism landing there onto Zoobed, who will get knocked up there in the bottom lane, take about half of his HP and harass, and bottom lane is going to receive another gank here. Snow746 comes in, scouted out by a ward. It is revealed, and so he's just going to back on out for now. Successful ward, but at least it is revealed that it's there, so Snow doesn't have to waste time there for another 3 minutes or so. Now, Scarcity as well, looking for a gank in the middle lane, coming around the corner, and against Chris, might not have all that much potential there. Chris actually could just straight up kill Chris Meister right now, but doesn't want to get baited by a Pale Cascade. Is he gonna ice path
he
in
jumps
there?
in.
All the way underneath the turret. NASA's going in there, gets locked up by the Ring of Frost, still has the red buff down there, and Chris without any other escape other than Flash. I'm not sure why Scarcity didn't keep going in there. Would have been going into a 1v2, but still had a pretty strong advantage as that level 4 Nasus with a lot of damage and that red buff coming his way.
Absolutely. That was a bit of a misplay there from Chris, but he's been playing this lane up to that point pretty much spot on. When you're up against a Diana who doesn't have any range besides her abilities, just auto attack and spam harass down, Chris does have the passive as well that negates the mana cost for your abilities every about 15 seconds. And so he just forced Chris Meister out of lane. Unfortunately, he's forced out of lane himself. They're going to go back up and buy. We actually have a Fiendish Codex here on Lissandra, whereas there's just a Flask, Boots, and a Doran's Ring over on Diana.
When you're talking about building the sniper build, you can actually see 2 points in Piercing Arrow for mine, so that does look like the Rowdy's going to go at least maxing up that ability first, and so that could signal the Bloodthirster Last Whisper Rush at the same time. Either way, it's very early on, but you'll already see not too much different in that bottom lane, even with all the early aggression, as I line up the champions here to make sure everybody's where they're supposed to be. Still keeping it relatively even. Yes, Aqua Prism lands. There's the sniper shot, taking Zoo back down to 200 HP. But once again, you cannot discount having Sona in lane. That sustain is keeping Zoo alive.
Right, Zuvet is going to have a difficult time, though. Actually decides to back off. I guess is a little afraid of the potential Nasus die. Once Nasus hits 6, he can definitely take up a turret for a little bit of time. Now Mind is going to get the level advantage as well as the CS advantage in the bot lane. And Nami is really just such a good choice with any ADC who's skill shot dependent or who has a a skill that takes time to charge up. And so with a Varus, it's perfect. It allows you to line up your Piercing Arrow and then get your Hail of Arrows right on top of them. And we can see it right there, forcing Caitlyn out of lane. She's now down 9 CS and is forced to leave Ampo heal there to just CS under the turret.
So a lot to focus on, but a few things are starting to become relatively evident. Kennen having a rough time top lane, is going to go for double amplifying tome, so could look for spell vamp as an option to sustain against Nunu, but either way isn't getting completely shut down and is just kind of farming things up at his turret. A lot better than I expected. A lot of Nunus just get a really dominant advantage, and you can see Feelhawk actually coming back in lane with only a Chalice of Harmony, not quite that Chalice plus Doran's Ring that we saw earlier on.
Right, I think he just needed the sustain there, but didn't quite get the hold over the lane that he needed before he went back. He gave Kennen a chance to catch up in this lane with that recall, and even though Kennen is about a wave behind, he's still going to have the gold he needs for some items. If he does decide to go for this Hextech Revolver, it will limit his chance to get his Zanya's Hourglass, which will definitely hurt their early dragon fight potential. But at this point, I think Saibodam is really focused on the lane here, and he just doesn't want to lose his tower, doesn't want to give Nunu a big advantage, doesn't want to let him get a needlessly large rod early.
Yeah, that was kind of the end of the. Oh, the Aqua Prism goes in bottom lane, but so does Snow. An excellent counter gank. Mind will escape the Fear Tether, so throws down the exhaust as well. There's gonna be a teleport bottom from Chris, just absolutely crushing down Baldur's Gate. Locks up Mind as well. Nass is falling too. It's an absolute bloodbath. Sona with the double kill, but still a 3 for 0 off of a perfect teleport. Chris, masterful use of that summoner spell, just crushing the bottom lane.
Oh my lord, there was such excellent play out of there. We saw that Snow knew exactly how much health he could tank there. He went right back into the fight, almost went down, but instead just allowed his team to claim not just the first, but the second and the third bloods there. Ampoheal getting the double kill, I believe leveling the ultimate during that fight. Even though 2 of those kills that go on the Sona, though, it's going to be a huge advantage as Caitlyn gets right back into the lane, getting all this farm, denying some of it to the tower, so that Mind won't have it once he gets back here. And, actually going to take the turret off of that. That was a huge advantage there for Random.
Keep in mind, they did lose a little bit. They took some damage on the middle turret that took a lot of pressure off Nunu. So now Feelhawk is just standing in the lane, free farming things up, is going to get a huge CS advantage off of this. And that will make it a little bit rougher for Saibodom. Top lane wasn't really impacted by that, but mid lane and the all of a sudden appearance of 4 champions down bottom lane. When you commit that heavily to something, if that team fight hadn't worked out just absolutely impeccably for Random, we could have seen a lot more pressure exerted elsewhere. Now, it's going to be interesting to see the response from Airswell, because now that everything's been expended, that's the big play coming out for Random. We'll have to see if Airswell can bring it back with a play of their own.
That's absolutely true. I think the play they kind of made there was just getting everyone right back in the game. Chris Meister had a rough time mid, but he was just able to sit mid and farm. Now he's up even with Chris, and even though he doesn't have the 2 assists, that was definitely what he needed to be able to stay alive here. And I mean, we can see even though...
There's actually changed the corruption. Bottom lane's right on to Zoom. Aqua Prism just following up. Masterfully stacked CC. Exhaust does go down onto Mine. Can't quite catch in onto Zoom. Snow is there. Does he have Paranoia up? No, down for 45 seconds. Forced to flash out. Mine will try to make it away. Ampoheal does have Crescendo. There's the flash. 1 more second until Crescendo's up. It just barely misses. If he had done Crescendo first instead of stopping to skill it up, he would have been able to pick up a kill. Still grabs the kill away on taking out Baldur's Gate. So his Sona, man, 3-0-1, starting things out with a gold for 10, but it's going to be making a lot more gold for kills.
Absolutely. Then that'll be an early sight stone here. That'll be a lot of vision. We can already see the vision advantage exhibiting itself over here. They have just a few more wards over on the bottom side of the map, and Sona with these pinks is going to be able to take...
Ignite top lane down onto Feelhawk. Just going to take a couple more auto attacks to take him completely out. And I'm not sure if we're going to see a Kennen dive. If he does, he will have to deal with an Ice Blast. It's going to take another auto attack there from Feelhawk to get himself enough mana to cast the spell, but does level up to level 9 off of that, so we'll have that level advantage. Saibodom is kind of... I don't want to say he has the advantage, but you can really see starting to put a lot of pressure on a Feelhawk that maybe he's not necessarily used to experiencing as a top lane Nunu.
Absolutely, that was an excellent play there, able to just force him down, almost getting the kill. I think you just don't expect the enemy to all-in you, since you can usually poke them down so well beforehand. Now Saibodom isn't in the best spot, but he might be looking to get back in there.
My question is, where has Nocturne been? Like, Nunu's been at like 100 HP underneath his turret for the last like 2 minutes. That's an easy press R win there for Snow, but hasn't quite made it up to that top lane. And so whether or not Snow knows nothing about that top lane, we'll have yet to see. But either way, it's been a lot more even than I would have expected. Even with Saibodom putting on a lot of pressure against the top lane Nunu, which is not a sentence you say every day.
Yeah, absolutely. Ever since that first gank, though, from Nocturne, we have essentially seen this game be a 1v1 in the top and then a 4v4 elsewhere. We might see that change, though, as Scarcity runs up. Here's no ward from Kennen, and Kennen's on rather low health.
Yeah, now Nunu will just bait out that cannon. There's the Wither throwing down. Lightning Rush is going to be enough to get away a little bit of distance, but it does land just long enough for an Ice Blast to go down. And there's Ignite. Scarcity just wanted to make sure. Mid lane, we're going to see Ignite go down onto Chris as well. Still ticking one last tick, but no, once again, Disciple. Health Potions, very effective item to buy.
Sweet Lord, that was close. Lissandra could have ulted herself for the invulnerability as well if it was enough of a problem. But like we saw on Runaway last game, if you are pretty sure that's gonna kill you, don't waste a cooldown.
Yeah, there we go. Hey, Chris will teleport, going once again down to the bottom lane immediately. Mine and Baldur's Gate
no idea
something's up. Yeah, absolutely none. Baldur's Gate is just going to blow up from that ace in the hole. There's the lockdown. Mine turns around. Is going to try to get the 1v1. Just absolutely destroyed Chris's teleport ganks from the mid lane. Off of a dominant performance from Airswell versus G-Pulse in game number 2, it's just looking like Chris almost single-handedly turning around the bottom lane, making sure to put enough pressure on Mind, knowing that he was the key player from game 1 or game 2.
Right, absolutely. That's Chris making huge plays. Now has still only a 3-kill participation in a 6-kill team, but I mean, we've seen him instigating so much in that bot lane. What he saw was Diana, after almost killing him, went back, and so he knew he could recall the base, get the health back, and immediately go bot. Diana wouldn't be anywhere close to either push mid or counter gank, and that was just such a great read by him. He has the early damage here from that Morello Nomicon, and as well as a health reduction. There's not going to be any healing up from Nami there, and they have a really good fight here in the bot lane. And in the top lane, Nocturne might be moving in.
Might be, but it'll be interesting to see if Feel Hack
actually
goes in there. Yeah, that would definitely be something to consider. Now, Sabodum moving forward is always a good signal. It's like, there's somebody with 300 HP walking forward on me. Maybe getting a gank. That's where your detective skills really come into play, but... either way, it looks like a lot of pressure around that middle lane, just waiting for a minion wave. 4 members strong, all grouped up there, and you can even see Kennen coming back from base off of a nice buy, looking for... what is he building next? He has a cloth armor. What is that cloth armor for? Probably for his Zhonya's, but then he has a ruby crystal for a haunting guys, so building a little bit of everything all at the same time.
Absolutely, he definitely is favoring those base stats, but isn't quite sure what to spec into quite yet. The Ruby Crystal will definitely help him survive, but Nunu just has the consistent damage from those Ice Blasts that might help him a lot. But Blue Team has taken the Dragon after getting a very solid Gold advantage and turned that into a Vision advantage. Sona, with the 3 kills, picking up the Sightstone as well as quite a few pinks, was able to really secure that Dragon for the team. Kennen moved towards the mid lane, just decided to give up the turret up top because he knew that he wasn't going to be able to do much against the Nunu. What he realized is that instead of laning against a Nunu, he just needs to fight against him in a team fight because Kennen has a lot more potential with that slicing Maelstrom than Nunu might with the Ultimate Zero.
Yeah, that's actually kind of impressive to see Nunu already pushing down that turret because sure, Kennen was out of lane, but really Nunu's only real wave clear was Absolute Zero, and even once you use Absolute Zero, that just makes your wave clear really Absolute Zero, because all you can do is just auto-attack the waves down, but he was left alone for so long that he just walked up and pushed the turret down just like anybody else would, auto-attacking the wave, and you'll actually notice that Feelhawk tends to Blood Boil a creep in the wave as well as himself, so that you can get even more pushing power, and is especially strong on cannon waves. Once you Blood Boil a cannon minion, that's actually a lot of damage that you put on your side.
Absolutely, the caster minions having quite a bit of AD onto those turrets. One thing you can also do is just go ahead and take out the enemy caster minions immediately and then just last hit his own melees, and that'll actually stack up his creeps a little bit once his next wave comes in, and that enables him to push in, which I believe is something that we saw there once he realized that Kennen was out of lane. He had forced him out on such low health, and a very well read lane in the top. That's kind of the only lane that's winning right now, though.
Yeah, it's been just amazing to watch Chris's presence around the map. You can see that he hasn't quite picked up boost yet, but I can almost promise you he's going to buy the Distortion upgrade as fast as he possibly can. His first item is actually a Morello Nomicon, and I, A, don't see that item built all that much, period, but B, I've never seen that built on a Lissandra before, because traditionally you want to rush a Zhonya's Hourglass, or maybe even a Deathfire Grasp if you're going for a Burst Mage kind of build. So very interesting to see that out there. Probably just bought mainly for its cooldown reduction and because it builds out of the gold per 10 from Cage's lucky pick, but not something I'm used to seeing. But at the same time, who can argue with a 1-0 Lissandra that's making plays all over the map?
Hey, if there's a Nami heal from from her W or even a Nunu heal from the consume, it'll limit it a little bit, which although it might not have the utility that Zhonya's Hourglass has, it'll definitely contribute to these fights. Now with the needlessly large rod, she has the potential to go for the Zhonya's Hourglass, or even if they're feeling like they're in a very, very strong position here, could be Rebetton's Death Cap. Most likely Hourglass though, just why not ult yourself and then Zhonya's and go invulnerable in the enemy team for 5 seconds.
Yeah, 5 seconds of invulnerability is pretty cool thing to have. There's actually the Aqua Prism over the wall, hits onto Chris, takes about half his HP in damage after a nice sniper shot landed there by Mind. You actually notice that Mind hasn't picked up almost any items just yet, and that's just a testament to the pressure that's been put on bottom lane. He has about even CS with Caitlyn, but he has 0-2 versus the 2-0, and that's really going to help out Zoobd in that matchup.
Absolutely. Caitlyn definitely has that BF sword up on him now, and that's going to make a lot of difference in this fight. One very interesting thing is, when that Aqua Prison landed onto Chris, that was Chris actually trying to go in with the Glacial Path to initiate there, but the Aqua Prison kept him from reactivating it, and that was just such an excellent example of Nami's disengage there in such a clutch circumstance. That could have been a very, very bad team fight there with Caitlyn up in items, with Nocturne very strong right now with his Paranoia, and just with these two very strong AP carries with so much AoE lockdown. They don't want to fight a fight right now. With Nasus, they just want to be able to split push, they want to be able to defend, they want to be able to farm up because they have a pretty strong late game here.
Chris going in just blows Baldur Gate apart. Didn't have to even worry about facing retaliation because it was just so fast. I saw the ice path go out and I was like, well, there's a chance he could go in, but it's going into a 2v1, and then that 2v1 is a 1v1 as Baldur Gate just blew apart. That does take the ice prism out of effect, but Apple, he'll actually walking into a Nasus Wither, does take about half his HP and damage. But Feelhawk can actually get a lot done onto Salbodem here in the top lane. Knows he has enough just to get those free ice blasts off whenever he wants. And that Salbodem is not going to have a good time. You notice the needlessly large rod finally picked up onto Baldur Gate. Or not Baldur Gate, but Feelhawk.
Right, I would love it if Baldur Gate got a needlessly large rod here in this matchup, but yeah. Feelhawk, so he is probably going to go for the same build. I don't know if that's the best idea here, just because damage in these team fights. I mean, Diana doesn't have a lot right now. Oh, actually decides to go onto Zubed there, but flashes right out.
Yeah, Snow with a nice sort of counter gank. Keep in mind he's going into a 1v1 lane with a plus support. So, kind of making it an even matchup there. I'm surprised to see Scarcity hasn't actually done anything this game. He's died and he's assisted in 1 kill and is down 25 CS. So it's nice to see Snow, who not only is up 25 CS, but also has been in a huge presence across the lane, ulting bottom lane several times in coordination with Chris's gank, and then also helping that mid lane to snowball as well. 2-0-2 performance from Chris.
Absolutely. Chris and Snow are really the playmakers here, and I just have to give it up to Salbodem up here in the top as well. His lane against Nunu is never a fun experience. But he's holding his own. He is down in CS, definitely. But with this Seeker's Arm Guard, he's getting a little bit closer to those teamfight items. And we really see Random getting in a pretty good spot here coming in the mid-game. It's interesting seeing that Scarcity is so far behind for how kind of little he's been able to actually contribute. Because you really need to be farming up if you are not in the fights. But, he has 100% kill participation on his team. It's just not enough right now. They might be going for the Dragon here, though, as they do throw down the pink ward to get a little bit of vision advantage. This could be a fight coming out here soon. It's a 3v3 right now, but other members are converging on.
Yeah, and Chrismaster actually will get the grab backwards with Moonfall onto Salbodem. Does not have that Zhonya's Hourglass. Crescendo coming back to try to keep him alive. Star City does group up, but Chris teleporting in once again. It's just going to lock everybody down almost single-handedly. There's going to be Snow a little bit overextended into the middle of the team. Will flash backwards and stay alive. Star City can't go back in, but it's zoomed in the back, just dealing out so much damage. There's Nation the whole timed perfectly with the drop of that barrier. Take it out, Mind in the very back there, and Nunu a little bit late to the party, didn't quite make it there in time. Off the back of that, once again, it's Chris making the plays, starting the team fights, and finishing it off. Dragon Falls as well, huge advantage to Random.
Absolutely, that was such a well executed team fight. Even though Kennen went down immediately, if he had a little bit more gold, he might have had that Zhonya's hourglass earlier, which would have definitely resulted in an even better team fight. But what we saw was Chris teleporting into the Dragon Pit and just immediately going in on the enemy team, bursting him down immediately. Everyone backed off when Feelhawk tried to ult, and his ult, I don't think actually hit anyone. It might have hit Snow over there, diving in the front lines. But other than that, everyone was just able to kind of scatter around it. And that's the danger of picking a Nunu in this matchup, is that everyone else can just kind of dart around your ult.
There's Spielhawk going in there. Doesn't have to worry about the AD carry because the Ice Blast just completely shutting Zoob down. Now Chris gonna try to lock him down, but there's an Ice Blast easy as they come. Chasing Ambo heal underneath the turret. Might have chased a little bit too far there. Backs off to the rest of his team. Knows he's gonna be able to consume a minion to get the nice heal back up to keep alive. A nice counter kill there, taking out Chris, who's a little bit overextended and just couldn't escape from the consistent, persistent slows from Feelhawks.
Absolutely, his flash was almost off cooldown, but not quite. He will just be respawning now. They will be able to defend this mid lane, it looks like, but definitely not the position you want to give up at all. Oh my goodness, actually, the Change of Corruption goes on to Snow. They go with the auto attacks. The Tidal Wave knocks him up Ambo as well. He's going to fall down quickly after one kill to Nami, one kill to Varus, and this will be a mid turret.
Yeah, mid-turret not going to be alive for very much longer, and you saw that chain stacking CC on Snow. There's like, hey, there's one person here, and they had enough to lock him down basically forever. Enough to finally give that kill away to Nami. Nice to see Baldergate consistently picking up a lot of kills for himself, but none more so than Ampo Heal, who, while dead, did pick up 3 kills very early on for herself. And you can just see this bottom lane. It's easy to look at the bottom lane and say, wow, they carried super hard. But then you see the 5 assists on Chris and just setting up the success for every single one of his lanes.
Right, definitely Chris making plays here, but with Zalbud getting this far ahead now, that we see a Trinity, or sorry, not a Trinity, a Infinity Edge and a Zeal to what looks like is going to be the sniper build with the Bloodthirster, as well as almost the Last Whisper on Varus. But with the auto attacks from Caitlyn, if she can consistently auto attack throughout an entire team fight, she's going to put out a lot more damage than Varus will be able to. And we've seen that in these last team fights. We're going to see it even more as it continues to get farther and farther. Now Nocturne is almost getting a Blade of the Rune King as well as his Spirit of the Ancient Golem. There's a big damage threat here from Random that I'm not sure Airswell is really ready to handle. We have some basic pushing. Actually, Nunu pushing pretty far into the jungle there. Finds Zobed, throws down the Ice Blast, decides to run away from this one. The big crits from Zobed, the net over the wall. He's going to throw the absolute zero. They're going to move right out of it. Doesn't hit anyone, but now he's in a bad spot. The Q misses, but the ace in the hole is going to take him out. Zobed is dominating. 603. Feelhawk, what were you doing?
He was trying to get the Ice Blast in the position for a nice absolute zero. Chris Master forced to ult himself and Zonya's.
Chris does the same thing.
Chris with the swag Zonya's. There's now Snow going in, trying to get in there, takes out Chris Meister. And there's Baldergate not long for this world. The Fear Tether goes up at just the last second. And there's a godlike AD carry, but this time it's not mine. It's Zoog, 7-0-4.
Absolutely, Zubed is dominating right now, doing so well in this matchup. And we can see that was just sloppy play there from Airswell. Nunu gave up the kill, and then the other ones were just hanging around. They knew they couldn't fight a 4v5, so instead they chose to fight basically a 3v5 or 3v4 there. And they gave up the kills, they gave up the turret. They can't give up these advantages to the 6,000 gold ahead Random here. I mean, they have the 8 kills, they have this just one extra turret with the top soon to follow as Cybottom just continues to poke it down.
Now Chris is going to pick up a blue buff for himself, and that will cap him out on CDR 40% there, so he'll be able to ult a lot. Top lane though, Feelhawk coming in there, going to throw on the Ice Blast on the Cybottom, and immediately turns out his absolute zero, but the Lightning Storm actually stuns him out at the last second, slicing Veilstrom. You can see assist picked up by Mai, just getting in there for a little bit of extra gold. I feel like able to finally take out Salbodum. So a lot of gold when you count assists and the kill going over there. 3-1-0, very good performance from Feelhawk, but once again, he's a Nunu. Like, what does he do in team fights? He tries to bait into an absolute zero. There's a lot of CC to lock him out of that. and then he just ice blasts, and he only has 20%, not that 40% CDR that really just doubles his effectiveness. I'm kind of questioning the ability, the amount that he's really going to be able to impact these next fights.
Right, he's usually a very good pick if the enemy team is going for an aggressive dive, that he can just kind of counter it. They go in, and then they go in right on top of an absolute zero. But 4 out of the 5 members here on Random can cancel out that absolute zero. Nocturne, probably not the one you want to choose, but the other 3 have pretty reliable crowd control there. And he just hasn't been able to find many people with his absolute zero. They've been able to back out. Caitlyn has the range that she can back out and continue attacking. And Ken and Lissandra have the mobility that they can dart around these fights and completely stay away from Feelhawk. I mean, he's 3-1-0, but he doesn't have the assists. His team doesn't have more kills, and they just aren't finding a lot with this.
So right now it's 13-6, and that can be a little bit misleading. Baldergate though walks around the corner straight into Zoomed, and Apo heal takes about half HP in damage. The Aqua Prism will zone everybody out. There's going to be the wards killed over the wall. Teleported from Chris, looking to start a fight. There's going to be Snow looking to go in. Huge crescendo out from Apo Heal, though, just to counter things out. Zoom can't get into the fight. He's isolated over the Dragon Wall. And it's actually Chris Master that definitely mastered Chris there. A failed engage as Zoom was nowhere to be seen. A consistent lack of damage in that team fight. And a team fight won for Airswell.
Absolutely, Airswell took it there. Now Scarcy is diving onto the turret, but the ultimate from Kennen is going to stop in his tracks. Kennen was nowhere near that fight. He'd never used the Slicing Maelstrom because he wasn't close to enemy champion right until the end there where Scarcy decided to dive on. A little bit miscalculated there, but they still have 3 members pushed against these 2. Zubat taking a lot of damage, and oh goodness, a Piercing Arrow doing work. Zubat has to back off of this one. Feelhawk is doing a good job of being able to Blood Boil Mind and just keep him auto-attacking here, keep him clearing out the creeps. Even though Feelhawk doesn't necessarily have any sort of wave clear, Mind certainly does with his piercing arrows. He has the Last Whisper and the Bloodthirster, so he is kind of at that max sniper build there. And what we saw was just Cybodom not in the fight at all, but they need him. They certainly need him in this fight, as that turned very, very sour very quick there for Random. Now there's just a about 3,000 gold advantage here for Random, where it was much higher just a couple minutes ago.
All right, so at least for right now, it's looking like the comebacks are a little bit more possible than I would have expected. Still a very strong advantage for Random, but Airswell, they've shown that not only can they deal with Chris teleporting in for a nice engage, but they can also counter that out. And sure, it was a little bit of Random countering themselves out, not having either Salbodum or Zoomed where they needed to be, but I think that's more a change that Random need to make for the next fight, just making sure that when they go for these big teleport plays, the initiates, they're going to have the rest of their team there to back each other up.
Absolutely. They need everyone there playing pretty much perfectly at this point, because when we didn't, like we saw, I mean, they were just kind of out-muscled there. It wasn't necessarily out-maneuvering at all. It was just Nasus and Nunu going kind of full man mode. Crispmeister, we've kind of underestimated as well. Diana's ability to tank up damage as well as dishing it out. The Void Staff picked up right after the Zanya's Hourglass is going to make him a very tanky man who puts out quite a bit of damage against someone like Chris, who we saw was kind of blown up in that fight, since there wasn't a Zubat to kind of, you know, balance the pressure from the enemy team. And Salbodum, just kind of nowhere near the vicinity. They couldn't contest that dragon, but they tried to anyway. It costed them, and they still have the advantage here, but it's definitely shrinking a lot. That's definitely kind of the morale boost that I feel like Airswell needed.
All right, so we'll see if morale boost can counter out the boost in cold that Random definitely has. 1,600 in the bank for Lissandra, so Chris can just go back to base and buy out a needlessly large rod. That's exactly what he does, and you'll also notice those distortion upgrades for Sorcerer's Shoes. Shoes aren't just enough, you have to have upgraded shoes so you can be extra fabulous. And red buffed Zoob actually able to push Chrismeister way back away. Doesn't want to be able to be perma-slowed there, and with Feelhawk coming in, Blood Boil on Anami just to give her a little bit of movement speed so she can be the initiate that you want to see in the world.
Absolutely. And she's definitely doing that since really Varus and Nami are the only initiate they have on this team. They've been doing a pretty good job. We've seen a lot of very solid chains of corruption moving through.
Oh, it's actually Chris going in, blows Nami up in the beginning of the fight. Double Zanya's out there, but a crescendo locks up Chris Meister. He will get CC'd there. Zoom and Chris gonna take the chains of corruption stun from the very back. Star City trying to run away, but is not gonna be able to get out of there fast enough. It's ace in the hole. Vi and Sky City takes him out. Zoom now legendary at 8-0-7.
Oh man, Mind had wanted nothing to do with that fight, and is going to continue throwing in piercing arrows, trying to snipe off Ampo Heal, perhaps dissuade them from doing a gyro. But actually, the flash over the wall from Cyvoldum is going to move in with the stun onto Mind. Now they're going to 1v1, but Cyvoldum is taking him down very, very quickly. Mind trying to respond without attacks isn't enough.
Feelhawk 1v4ing is also not really going to work out in a perfect 5-for-0 exchange. Now going to be a free Baron here is Random crushing through that team fight off of... Chris just has no fear at all. He had teleport up and could have gone for that same sort of teleport surprise initiate. Just man-moded it straight into the enemy team, blew Nami up, and then Zanyas himself did that, had that 5 seconds of invulnerability, and it was all every second that he needed to be able to crush through that fight. Chris is going to take down an invisible blue buff and take himself back to base after a nice team fight win and a Baron buff for Random.
Absolutely, and what that is like when you have 5 seconds of vulnerability, the other team can just move away, reposition, and then re-engage once your ultimate and Zanya's are down. But instead they stood around trying to burst her down as soon as she popped out, and that was the mistake there. Nunu tried to pop the ultimate 0, but it was Zanya's, and so there was still no damage from the ultimate 0 in these team fights, which is something that I feel like Airswell desperately needs in this matchup. But right now we're seeing Airswell not able to do nearly enough in team fights. Mind was a little bit too far in the back. He kind of needed to be, though, because he's so afraid of the dive from Snow, from Chris, from Salvodum. Just everyone so eager to get on him, stun him, and then take him out. And so we see now it's 19-9 in kills, a full 8,000 gold advantage over here on a Baroned up Random. This is a very strong-looking team who's going to be looking towards those inhibitors.
All right, so one team fight right after another continue to go Random's way, but we can't forget that Airswell has actually won team fights this game too, able to get a nice turnaround at Dragon, but that was really off of just mispositioning from Random. So it's either going to be up to Airswell to wait for a mistake like that again, or to try to maybe split push and force Random into a similar sort of split up kind of situation and then group faster than they do. But that's really going to be difficult just because Chris's teleports have been absolutely on point this game.
Absolutely, it is up again, so we could look for that if we were to see an initiate, but instead we're actually going to see them just shoving up this mid lane. We have a 5-on-4 right now as Diana home guards right back in. The trap on the scarcity, but it's not enough. Actually, a lot of damage on the scarcity. Wow, that Piltover Peacemaker doing work.
You can see that last Whisper doing work too. Really, really evident with the armor shred getting all the way through everything provided by the Lock of the Iron Solari. Once again, a trap lands, and Chris Meister down to half HP as well. Zoob traps alone are giving him this chunk damage on really high priority targets.
Better rename him Admiral Akbar here, because it's most certainly a trap, as they want to engage this before their turret goes down, but they're not really seeing an opportunity.
Yeah, really the disengage is pretty huge. Absolute Zero chained out there, but Feelhawk kind of wasted that. Zoom down below half HP, but to be honest, can just walk up to any creep camp in the jungle and just make it out alive. There's Ace in the hole, taking down Chris Meister below half HP. He's going to have to go back. Does have home guard boots, so he will be able to get back into the fight pretty soon. Massive wave of minions top lane, so might actually see somebody split away from Random to try to go deal with that. And indeed, it does look like they're sending Snow away, knowing that he'll be able to get back into the fight the fastest.
And there was a teleport from Chris actually, so that will be down. It is a pretty fast cooldown here with these distortion boots, though, and Chris is just going to shove up this lane. They realize once they shove up these side lanes, they'll still have the Baron on them, and they still have the potential to go for one of these inhibitor turrets. Or even the inner turrets here, which are much more difficult for the red team here to defend, since there isn't a lot of maneuverability and you're really susceptible to an AoE teamfight comp like we have here with Lissandra, with Kennen. They can definitely just jump on you, immediately burst you down, and these inner turrets on the sides are not a position that Airswell really wants to get in at any point.
All right, we're gonna take a little bit of a breather here, as both teams just trying to push out their waves. It's actually interesting to see Random actually the first team to back on off, actually teleporting down to the bottom lane, Chris, just to push those waves back out and get a nice setup for this next big push that they are going to make. It could possibly be the last push of the game, grouping 5 running down the middle lane. It's going to be up to, I feel like Feelhawk really has to come into play. He had most of the kills over most of the game, and this is going to throw down that absolute zero.
Hitting absolutely zero.
Zero people. So I guess in some way living up to the name, but probably not in the way that he would have preferred.
And Zubed actually takes a lot of damage there, but is able to take out the turret. We might see the fight here, but the turret's down. It's not going to be a good opportunity.
Nami's tidal wave for the counter engaged, but Zubed once again dropping down very, very low. Chris going man mode with the entire team. Crescendo misses, but it is going to be double Zonya's hourglasses. Salbottom getting in there, gets slowed out there, but it's a double kill. And Snow with his offensive Nocturne build goes in, gets the double kill out there. Zubed legendary, so it's actually Zubed that picked up the last one of those kills, and with that, the middle inhibitor will go down. First inhibitor of the game will fall, and it's going to be able to Mind and Feelhawk. If I had to pick people to bring this back for Airswell, I'd definitely pick those two. They look like they actually could take out Snow, but no. Flashes away, it's going to be Sidebottom who will go down as the sort of sacrificial lamb, and Airswell able to pressure Random out of their base, but at what cost? Losing an inhibitor. Baron rather, going to be up in just about a minute, and definitely looking like Random in a good spot to pick that up.
Absolutely. It looked like they pulled a TSM there for a minute. Chris kind of going full Reggie, diving into the enemy team while the rest of those 4 members were in the outside of the base. But they had the Nocturne on their own team this time, so they had the vision still. They were able to just go right in. We saw Salbottom following it up very, very well with the flash slicing Maelstrom into the enemy team. And then the Sona following it up as well with the Crescendo. Just such a good team fight play after something that, I mean, Chris looked like he went in there mistakenly. It looked like he went in 1v5 while the rest of his team was outside of the base. But they followed him up. They really trust each other. They really had the communication there. And we see Chris 4-2-11 really making plays for his team to allow the 10-1-9 Zubed here. Zubed is really taking the spot of Mind as the ADC to look for the ADC that's carrying out the game. Feelhawk, if we look at his build, he did decide to go for the Rabadon's Death Cap, which hasn't been doing much at all this game. Now as a Chain Vest, could be looking for potentially a Sunfire Cape or even a Glacial Shroud into a Frozen Heart, which would definitely stop Zubed from auto-attacking quite as much, which might be what they need here. I think it's going to be a Frozen Heart, but I think it's going to be much, much too late.
He's going to be a more defensive Nunu, which is good in
Chris
some
has found
respects.
Mind.
Yeah, and that's how you can tell Mind is not where he... I'm not sure what necessarily he was thinking. Now Chris going to be caught out just a little bit, but immediately the rest of his team is there to back him up. Chris disengages, flashes out, gets away alive. Feelhawk with a very good absolute zero to put down a lot of damage. Snow, a little bit of problems. This actually could be a turnaround for Airswell. They are four
They
men
lost
strong.
Zubed.
Yeah. Zubed died. Mind is down, so... both AD carries out of the picture, but you could just see what a huge asset Zubed was to Random. As soon as he dies, they just don't have the persistent damage in the team fights, and with him out of the picture, Chris Meister actually still alive. Chris, the Lysandra player on Random, was actually forced out of the fight way too early, got a little bit caught out. That sort of forced the rest of his team in there to go for the engage, and it was just not quite what you wanted to see, as I'm pretty sure Nunu could in fact solo Baron right now, but knows he doesn't really want to overextend.
Right, that would definitely not be the good choice there, especially if we look at the vision advantage that Random has right now. And we see that Zubed is so key to their team. When he dies, the team follows right after, and they don't have the persistent damage. Nocturne is trying with his Blade of the Ruined King, and the Maw of Malmortius actually coming out there. So he is definitely going to be a tanky damage threat diving into that team. There's a lot of front-loaded damage. We can see they're also very squishy if they try to go in on someone like Nasus, or even Nunu, who's getting a little bit tankier himself. It could be dangerous. Oh, actually, the Sunfire Cape came out from Nunu, so he will not be slowing the attack speed from Caitlyn, but he will be a persistent damage threat with the AoE, which might be what it needs since his Absolute Zero wasn't doing too much for him in the damage department.
Something to notice is that as this game gets later on, We were talking about this in last game, the ability to anti-carry against the Caitlyn. She suffers a lot from attack speed. She doesn't have an attack speed steroid of her own, and while Varus only has an attack speed steroid if he gets a kill, he's going to have Blood Boil as well. And so Caitlyn's going to be facing up against not just Ice Blast, but also Wither. So as huge as Zoobed is, we noticed A, got bursted out in that last team fight and wasn't a source of continual damage. B, she's going to be going up against Wither and Ice Blast. Chris once again going in, looked to get the kill on Mine. It's actually extremely tanky, takes a crescendo as well. Now Snow just going to town on to Mine, no peel at all. Feel like trying to get in there, trying to get out. Rather, Chris will finally fall after it's actually Star City who's dealing way too much damage in these team fights. Snow will start to take a little bit too much damage. Ace in the hole actually does make it all the way through the team, takes out Feelhawk. It's just Star City trying to make it out alive. Will he be able to get back to base? It's not looking good as Cybodum tries to get to the back. Can he catch on to Scar City? Both Scar City and Baldergate trying to survive, but there's actually Kennen taking so many turret shots he can't continue to go in, and now with the Aqua Prism landing, the minions dealing damage, but keep in mind Zoobed and Chris both looking to get onto that field. It's actually Spirit Fire able to take out Chris on the Nexus turrets. Zoobed gets exhausted there, can't really do anything, locked up by that Aqua Prism. Nami's just stalling for time right now, but can't make it back in a 490 damage critical strike.
The crazy thing that fight there was that Chris didn't die in the initial fight. He was able to flash away, but let's see if Zoobed is actually able to kite it out with a 90 caliber net, is not able to take that inhibitor, which had to stop attacking the Nexus turrets because of the respawn. But Chris did such an excellent job engaging that and surviving, was able to get out of there with the Glacial Path and was able to push on, took out a Nexus turret. That was definitely a team fight win and an objective gained. The minions just pushing out on the side lanes. Once you take an inhibitor, your own minions in the other lanes do receive some buffs so they can push on as well. And definitely Random taking control of this. You know, Airswell is not out of the game yet, but it's not looking very, very promising for them.
If you want to look at something that is looking promising for Random, Ampo Heal's build contains enough vision in his inventory to see why kids love the taste of Cinnamon Toast Crunch. Like, there's so many wards there. It had 3 stacks of wards and is going to be able to put out 7 more along with the 3 from Sidestone for a total of 10 more wards looking to go out on the map. It's going to be lighting up the jungle like it's Christmas. I don't even know what to expect other than just no fog of war absolutely anywhere on the map.
If this were solo queue, those would all go around the enemy Nexus.
Alright, well, they're going to be pushing in on there. All inhibitors up, keep in mind, for Airswell, so their base is not going to be besieged by super minions just yet. Baron is up, and it's going to be up to Airswell to keep that from getting onto Random, because Random with Baron buff, even though we've seen teamfights kind of go back and forth, is not something you want to give away.
Meanwhile, Nocturne just decides to solo the dragon. The Aqua Prism misses, but they're just continuing to strangle out Airswell here. They cannot give them any advantages, and now Airswell almost gets caught out taking the wrong corner, but it looks like Random's just going to Shirelia's in here, rush the inhibitor, and this is going to be the fight they want. They're on the wrong side of the base.
That sets Chris up for a perfect engage. Ult himself putting out a lot of damage, blocking the damage from the Nuno ultimate as well. Sabodum, it's the Zanyas, and there's actually Chris forced the Zanyas in the back too. Chris actually could die here. Snow jumping on to Chris Meister, trying to take him out. Shield keeps him alive for a lot longer, and he's going to trade 1 for 1 there. Snow will make it out alive with 38 HP, and with Ampo Heal rather, going out, it's a triple for Mine. Didn't have it early on because of Chris's pressure down bottom lane. But this time, the engage is just a little bit too forced for Random, and Airswell turn it around.
Mine does everything he can to crawl himself back into the game. We can see that although Caitlyn has 15 kills, he has 374 CFs to his name. He is coming out very strong here. He doesn't quite have the full item build that Caitlyn has yet, but he's getting there, and he's starting to look pretty scary. That engage did not go the way of Random there. They just weren't able to take down the pretty massive health bars that Nasus and Nunu finally have. Even Diana coming in with a lot of tankiness with that natural damage from the shield as well as the Zanya's Hourglass. That was a rough fight there for Random. They tried to muscle it down a little bit too quickly. They need to play it a little bit safer now.
Yeah, they definitely still have this game, but it's a 10,000 gold advantage at 50 minutes into the game. At some point, no matter how far behind you are, you're still going to get all the items that you need. And you can see, especially in the case of Mind, who got so shut down early on. Oh, canceling the teleport from Chris by killing the tower. That's actually huge, because that means that it's only Snow left there to defend. They could have pushed in onto that advantage, but not knowing where the rest of Random were, wisely decided to back off and defend.
All right, the vision advantage is still here for Random. They still haven't been able to take it back, and Sona still has a whole lot of wards, double stacking in inventory as well as having the Sight Stone. And so it's not like they're going to be able to reclaim it anytime soon. They will be able to throw out some for their own, and even though they will be taken out pretty quickly with an Oracle, they at least have some slight momentary vision over the enemy team. Interesting seeing Nami actually go for the Spooky Ghosts here instead of the Shirelias that Sona have. We can just see kind of the defensive slow coming out from our red team as just with the speed buff to rush everyone into the base over from Random, which are kind of the mindsets of these supports here and kind of the game they've been playing. But Sona's been doing a lot better, sitting up there at 3, 4, and 2 after getting those 3 of the kills, decided to turn them over to her carry.
Yeah, the Spooky Ghosts work, or the Twin Shadows, aptly named, actually work a lot better on Nami, because once you slow the enemy down, it makes it a lot easier to land her Aqua Prisms. So either way, you're not going to be able to run away from Nami. She's going to slow you down with the Twin Shadows and then knock you up, or at least suspend you in her Aqua Prism. Then another knockup coming in from Tidal Wave and slows from Tidecaller's Blessing. A lot of just ambient CC that is going to go straight to keeping Mind alive. It's going to be take 2. Already Zoobed going to be starting to feel some pain from the Thorn Mail. That's what the Chain Vest went into onto Beelhawk. Actually, really hurting him out there. The Ignite dropped as well, keeping him from lifestealing. Now Zood below half HP. This could be exactly what Airswell want to look for as far as engages are concerned. And immediately, you can see Random realize they didn't have such a good fight last time. They don't want to give it away twice in a row, because this game, while in their favor, is not over just yet.
Right, Random can't force it in. They saw it last time. They saw how much it didn't work out, and they don't want to go in without some ample protection this time. They don't have the Guardian Angel up on Caitlyn. It's still regenerating. I really don't think they want to fight until that's up so they can give their AD carry a second life.
They don't just need ample protection, they need ampo protection, as he was the first to die. There's actually Sal Bodum opting to go in because he was out of position. He's going to go down there. That makes it a 4v5. We will see Snow actually dash in there. Chris Meister actually winning the battle of the Chris's, taking out Chris in the back there. Now Snow going to take an Ice Blast. Nunu will pick up a double kill, and off of really just Sal Bodum getting caught out there, it's only he and Zoob that make it out alive.
Airswell takes it, and now it looks like Caitlyn was pinging the Nexus, wanted to run down there and see what she could do, but they dove onto Mind, took him so low, they figured he was out, but then they expended so many resources, he just life-stole right back up, and he was able to stay alive in the back, auto-attacking, doing an excellent job. He's now healed up the full, took the Baron for his team. They have that on 4 members of the team. Scarcity was the only one to not get that, and now they're actually looking very strong right now. There's a 6,000 gold lead, but at this point in the game, it doesn't mean much, except maybe on the support, but we have our 80 carries at full builds. Our AP carries about to get their final items, and everyone is gearing up for this final fight that's turning out to be a lot more exciting than we were anticipating when we saw Random in the enemy team base looking like they were going to close out the game.
And this is why you never predict the outcome of a game before it's over. I've seen a lot of stomps in my day, but nothing quite as ridiculous as this. Caitlyn actually selling her Blade of the Ruined King to complete a Bloodthirster. So looking for that late game AD carry itemization, you can see it actually identical builds for both AD carries. There is no difference between those. All right, items exactly the same. 15 kills on Caitlyn, and she has the same items as a 7-kill Varus. So this is how late in the game we are. It doesn't actually, laning phase doesn't matter anymore. AD carries are going to be AD carries in these team fights, and even though Caitlyn with 15 kills, I want you to take a look at the CS difference. 150. 250, actually. Wait.
Yeah, 150.
150, all right. My math was having some issues there, but 150 CS advantage for Mind just goes to show that you can make him down, but you can never take him out of the game.
Absolutely, and that's what we saw there from Airswell, just kind of playing it safe. When Random was roaming, they were farming. We saw Diana was down in farm earlier, but was able to catch back up and actually overtake Chris there. Now is about 35 up. and they've been doing an excellent job bringing themselves back in the gold. Now they're bringing themselves back in the game. They have the Baron on them. What are they going to do with it? Are they going to muscle down these turrets? They're going to try to bait out a fight, or do they just have to turtle it until they can get a little more items on a little more people and potentially be able to win a flat-out 5v5 once again?
This is the weirdest Nunu build I have ever seen. I don't like the Sunfire Cape. I'd much rather see a Void Staff because he's going up against trying to chunk down Salbodum, who actually has ridiculous amounts of magic resistance up at 144. You're going to need a Void Staff for that. Or at least the even almost better item would be a Liandry's Torment. Because every single one of Nunu's offensive abilities have slow built into them. You're going to get the double damage from Liandry's, and it would make it really good because, hey, you're penetrating magic resistance as well. And as everybody has more magic resistance than the magic resistance reduction from, or penetration from Liandry's, that'd be a really good item. You're not going to be just walking around in T5s. There's actually Salbodum getting caught out once again. Does pop the zombies to stay alive. Huge crescendo to lock down Airswell, but it's still alive. Chris Meister actually walks underneath the turret. Snow able to take him out, but not before he picks up the kill. Chris, Salbodum, Apo heal all down now. Snow's Guardian Angel gets popped, and Star City just standing right on top of him will take him out. Mind on a rampage, and now Zoomed getting
Aqua Prison lands.
Mind will take it out, trying to finish the kill, but can't quite snipe him out there. Speaking of sniping, now...
The ace in the hole goes right into the Nunu.
Yeah, no question about that. Middle inhibitor will go down, and with 40, 50-second death timers, not actually 40 of them, but 4 of them, first Nexus turret will fall, second one looking to go down, and Airswell with a long, hard-fought comeback 53 minutes into the game will take down the Nexus turret and take the win.
So well played by Airswell there, just winning the teamfight after teamfight after teamfight after they lost a Nexus turret. That was so close and so excellently played there. Such an exciting game for us to watch, and that was just a huge comeback that I was not expecting at all. Mind once again pulling through for his team. We saw him stomp the first game, and the second game just hold it in there until they could finally take it back in the end.
And keep in mind, while Mind is definitely the comeback MVP, Chris's pressure across the map really set Zoobed up to be a huge AD carry and gave him that huge advantage over Mind. And then it was up to Zoob to make that advantage count. And I really feel like he had the potential to do that a lot of times, but it was just almost brilliant in Airswell's team composition that while they have a great AD carry who's behind, they know that if Mind gets behind, then they have double anti-carry potential from Nasus's Wither and Nunu's Ice Blast. And really, I think that was... It's a good strategy to say, hey, Mind is strong, so let's go for trying to take out Mind. But it feels like Airswell were completely prepared for that. They're like, hey, we know who they're going to focus, and if they succeed in that, then we're just going to go ahead and take them out with anti-carry power until we can stall long enough for Mind to be a factor. And as soon as he completed his full build, Random didn't win a fight after that.
Right, in the end, Chris just didn't matter as much. He would dive right in at the last fight. He instantly burst down Mind, but Mind still had his Guardian Angel and came right back up. Mind just being such a huge player, supported by the rest of his team, who did so well. They were behind in kills, they were behind in gold, but they brought it out in the end for the win, which is what matters. This exciting game of the teams of Legend, and this has been a great tournament to start out, some exciting games. And it's been a whole lot of fun. That's going to be it for us today. But thank you so much, Rapid, for casting with me.
Yeah, absolutely. I would love to be a part of this, and thanks for having me on. It's great to get a chance to see some of the best all French teams compete here in the Teams of Legend tournament, and hopefully we can come back and do this a little bit more often. But also do want to give a huge shout out to the viewers, everybody that tuned in today. It was great to have you guys check out some international casting by international casters. So hopefully we didn't horribly butcher team names or player names too badly, and everybody had a good time.
Absolutely. If you want to see anything more from your casters, you can follow us on Twitter. I am at LOLDisciple, and you can find Rapid over at Rapid Casting. And if you want to check out more about this tournament, you can go over to Facebook.com. It is Teams of Legend, and thank them so much for putting this on. I am so excited to come back, and this has been an excellent tournament. Thank you all for tuning in, and have a wonderful night.